This is Andy Gutierrez from StarWars.com, and you are listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This is James Arnold Taylor, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi. I have a good feeling about this.
Hello and welcome to Bad Batch Season 2, Coffee with Kenobi's coverage of the brand new Star Wars animated series, The Bad Batch. Of course, it's not a brand new series, it's Season 2, which we've very much been looking forward to. And speaking of looking forward to, I am your host, Dan Zehr, along with my co-host for today's show, the amazing, although I'm very biased, but I think you'll agree, Mason Zehr. Mason, welcome back to Coffee with Kenobi.
Thank you.
Hey, buddy, it's great to watch this with you. We got up very, very early to watch Season 2 because we're so excited. And I know what I think about The Bad Batch, but when you think about Star Wars overall, what is it about The Bad Batch series that you like so much?
I like how it's like this group of clones who are like the only ones that can help themselves.
Right, and it's just got a great atmosphere. It's just fun. Like, it's that familiar recipe of Star Wars that we know and love. It adds some new wrinkles to the overall mythology, but it keeps the fun and the excitement of Star Wars. And there's something about that era of the beginning of the Empire, and the rebellion is not even close to starting yet, but you start to see that people just don't like what is happening with the Empire, especially, of course, Clone Force 99. So how much would you say your excitement for Season 2 was before we saw the first episode?
9 out of 10.
9 out of 10?
Mm-hmm.
So you were like insanely excited about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so the first two episodes both dropped today. They're episode 201, Spoils of War, and episode 202, Ruins of War. Now, the entire series is going to be 16 episodes, and they're going to drop every single Wednesday, so we're going to be, of course, doing our top fives of this, and we're going to have a little bit of double dipping because there will be times we have a bonus Coffee with Kenobi episode because we are still covering Willow, and then when The Mandalorian comes out on March 1st, we're going to be ending Season 2 of The Bad Batch and then starting Season 3 of The Mandalorian. That's a lot of Star Wars to talk about.
Yes, very much.
But really good. Okay, so I'm just curious. I think I know the answer, but I don't know if our listeners know this. Before we even talk about the episode, who is your favorite member of The Bad Batch and why?
Omega, because she's the sister of Boba Fett and young and unlike any other clone we've ever seen, really.
You know who my favorite is?
Hunter.
Omega.
Really?
Yeah. It used to be Hunter, but I've just grown to really like Omega and appreciate the challenge it is that she faces and how she fights through everything, and she's like the glue that unites them all together.
Agreed.
Yeah, thanks. Well, all right, so do you want to give your letter grade for each episode? Because we're going to talk about them together. Do you want to talk about each episode? You want to give grades for both of them now, or do you want to wait till the end of this review?
I'll say now.
You want to do it now? Okay, so what did you give for the first one, 201 Spoils of War, and why did you give the grade that you did?
I gave it a B because it wasn't my favorite episode of Bad Batch, but it wasn't terrible.
Okay, I like that. I would give it a B plus. I would say it's a very familiar episode, but it's also really nice. I don't want to say comforting, but I guess it is. You didn't see Andor because your dad, me, decided that was probably too mature for you since you're 9 years old. But someday you and I will talk about it, and I'm sure you'll be interested in it. But this is much more in the wheelhouse to me of what Star Wars is, where people of all ages can enjoy it, but there's still the right amount of intensity. And this one has that. It's just kind of an opening. There's really nothing groundbreaking here, but it is a heck of a lot of fun, which is why I gave it a B+. So right off the bat, let's just take this. Oh, what about, should we just give the grade for Ruins of War 2, the second one?
I'd say we give a review on the first one, talk about them, and then we go to...
Okay. So the first one, right off the bat, I noticed how beautiful the animation is. The water looks great and crystal clear. Of course, the Bad Batch is into a lot of mischief. What do you want to talk about with Spoils of War? What things stood out for you?
Like you said, the opening sequence I liked how all those like crab creatures almost were like running and attacking them.
It felt like a Super Mario Brothers or a Super Mario World thing, those enemies.
Yeah.
And then when they get shot, it's almost like their shells close up. They were fun, but they were also dangerous.
Yeah, it's like they have. It's sort of like Harry Potter. Like if you get a spell shot at you, you just say Protego, and it's like a shield.
Oh, good point. Good point. So that's one of the reasons why you're on the show, because you're an expert in a lot of different things with other genres things too, especially Harry Potter, naturally. So one of the things I really like about this one, about Spoils of War, is that first of all, we notice that all the Bad Batch, their armor is a little bit different. Did you notice that too?
Yeah.
What did you notice that was different about it?
It was like it had some white markings over it, I saw.
And there's some like orange stripes that go like down the center or like around the armor too, which was missing in season 1.
I think like from the waters of Camino had damaged like their armor, so they kept their helmets or like did something to them, and they like fixed their armor.
Oh, I like that, and I don't know if they realize it or not, the clones themselves, Clone Force 99, but I like to look at this as the orange is the sign that they're going to be in a rebellion someday.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of cool because the rebel orange.
Yeah.
I really like. We talked about how Omega is one of our favorites, or our favorite. I like in the beginning of this how she and Tech, we already see the, kind of a teacher-mentor thing between the two of them. She's learning about different sorts of spacecraft in the Imperial Navy, and Tech is quizzing her. But she would rather just kind of lay down and enjoy the water, and they're basically fishing. They catch one of those crab things, and then right away we see a really cool move that Omega does. She slides. What is it? What does she do?
She grabs onto like another hook that she did or something. She slides down it, and then like when she gets down, she like lands on one of their shells, and then she pulls out her bow and shoots the other one that's on the ship.
So you wouldn't know this because I haven't shown it to you, but back in the 80s there was a Dungeons and Dragons cartoon, and one of the weapons, one of the characters in it had this bow. It was a light bow. I don't know what the official title was, but it was basically a regular bow and arrow, but the arrow itself and the string that used the knock to pull it back was made of light, and it reminds me of that. Omega shows right away that this isn't just like a kid grabbing a weapon like Ezra at the beginning with a slingshot in season 1 of Rebels. She actually knows how to use it. She has a great maneuver, almost Jedi-like, although she's not a Jedi. It's just almost like a flip, doesn't she?
Yes.
And she shoots the bow right away. Like, she clearly is very comfortable in combat, and she's a pretty formidable opponent in her own right.
Mm-hmm. I agreed. Which
is very cool. That stood out to me right away. And then I think Echo, let's see, Echo does not, I wrote down here, well, we go back to Sid. Sid wants to give them a message. What do you think about Sid overall, by the way?
Not very nice or trustworthy.
Yeah, that's a good description. She's kind of frustrating. It makes you wonder why they are still working with here, but it's pretty much established that they're not free, and she reminds them of that because of the Empire and their reach over the galaxy, which of course grows all the time. And then she says, if you make enough money, you can buy your own freedom, because basically they are working with her and for her. She considers them her top ones. We also meet new character Faye Genoa, Phee. Fee. Thank you. You're the one. You have better eyes than me, so you're able to read Fee. And then her last name is Genoa, Genoa. She was played by comedian Wanda Sykes. You probably haven't seen in anything. I know her from a lot of things, especially Curb Your Enthusiasm back in the earlier episodes. She's got a very unique style. She's a pirate that is friends with Sid, but we don't really see much about her except that she seems to kind of think Tech is cute, I guess. Calls him brown eyes.
And he says, well, technically everybody has brown eyes.
Yeah, and he talks about the pigmentation because Tech is very logical. But
That's why he's named Tech.
Exactly, because he's very technical. Good point. So they're supposed to go to Castle Sereno, which is a big deal because this is the home of Count Dooku, the deceased Count Dooku. Of course, he dies at the end of the Clone Wars at the hands of Anakin Skywalker. But in essence, there is a big treasure there for him. And from him, of all the worlds he's pillaged and plundered and taken their money from and their trinkets, and their treasures. So they want to retrieve it to have a little bit of money. But Echo is frustrated, and it's a theme that I think is important. And he very much disagrees with what Hunter wants to do. How would you describe the two opinions?
Like of wanting to go.
Yeah.
I think Tech wanted to go so he could help with another mission like Omega was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And Hunter thought it was too risky.
Right, and that's what a lot of it is in season 1. And Echo talks about the fact that he wants to help. He doesn't want to hide from the Empire. He wants to help others. So there are other people that are helping. Why aren't we doing this? I think he gets really, really frustrated, but they drop it kind of quickly. Then they go back to Sereno, and we see that the planet's basically in disarray because there's Imperial bombardment, which I think Tech says it's the same as what happened on Camino.
Mm-hmm.
And basically the entire episode is there's these cargo treasure ships, or there's these, what do they call them? Do you remember?
I forget what they call them, but they're basically these giant ships that carry things on their back, and they can connect, and they're like little cargos connected.
It's like this massive aircraft carrier that you put these giant cargo boxes or crates or what they are, and they're almost like in the real world like cargo on a train transport, but they just fill up top to bottom, left to right. There's a whole bunch of them there, and so they've got to get inside there. They find, and then there's a great point where they say, "How do you know what's valuable?" Which is kind of charming that they don't know what is worth a lot. Mm-hmm. And then one of them says, "See what's the most shiny." What do they say? Do you remember? I guess it doesn't really matter, but basically that's how they know. And then they talk about the fact that the Empire and Dooku, well, not the Empire, Dooku just took all these things to fund his war effort, but you also know that he was very greedy.
Yes.
Which, of course, that's one of the big main... We'll say that again?
It's like what Sith?
Yeah, it's a Sith thing, very much. It's like the 7 deadly sins. Greed is one of the major ones. And she says, well, isn't this what we do too? We take this stuff, and Echo says something important. He says, depends on how we use it.
I think it was Tech.
Tech. It might have been Tech. He says, it depends on how we use this money if we're the same as the Empire, which of course they're not.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the rest of this, there's an exciting thing at the end where they got to jump to safety. There's a great part where they basically split up. They've got Hunter and Wrecker with one group, and then they've got Echo, Tech, and Omega in another. The three of them are stuck inside that cargo box, and then Wrecker and Hunter are running from the other clones. They always stun, or as the clones try to blast at them. Did you notice that?
Yes.
And then there's an awesome scene where Wrecker, they're on this big circular pad, and they get to jump to safety, but not by jumping like Indiana Jones or Spider-Man. But they jump up and down like it's a trampoline and make the floor just drop, which is great. And then at the end, there's a great sequence where Omega realizes, because of her training and her knowledge and learning, which I think is really cool, that this particular vessel has retro boosters that will kick on once it falls from the atmosphere, because the Empire ejected all the escape pods. They're banking on the fact that when they kick out that vessel or out that cargo box, that the boosters will come on and they will land. But of course, the thing falls out of the ship, and it's a great cliffhanger. So those are the main things that happened on the episode. But what do you want to talk about from the episode, or what stood out to you?
I think of I'm around the middle. Hunter's stealth skills when he's trying to stink around all the clones.
Yeah, and that because they all have a special gift, right? Hunter is a tracker, and he's very good at sneaking around.
Which he's a hunter.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's it's not like they're hiding it. That's actually his name. Wrecker wrecks things. He's very, very tough, but he's not clumsy. I think that would have been easy for them to make him clumsy, but then he wouldn't be much of a skilled clone. And then Tech, as you said, is technical, which is great. And then Echo doesn't really repeat what people say. So why do you think he's called Echo?
He has like technology in him, and he has like that arm.
Mm-hmm. And when he was a
In the
clone
back of
before
his
he was
head.
enhanced, that was kind of one of the things that was sort of a joke. Then, of course, Crosshair, who was not in this episode. By the way, did you miss having Crosshair? Were you surprised we didn't see him at all?
I sort of was.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be a mix between them.
Oh, that would be nice. But yeah, they don't even talk about him at all. So it ends in a cliffhanger. I think the important things from this episode that really stand out to me are the idea of what are we fighting for? Are we doing it just to make money, to give ourselves a bit of a vacation away from fighting, or do we want to help? I think many of us want to see the clones help. So hopefully that is the direction that they go. But why do you think Hunter is so resistant to helping?
I think he wants to protect Omega.
I
And
do
you
too.
can tell from this episode when he says it's too risky, because he normally would say yes.
Good. To you, has Omega proven yet that she doesn't need help, or what do you think?
Yes and no.
What do you mean by that?
Because she has like her own weapon, and she shows how she needs to use it, but also she's a kid.
Yeah, that's a great description. It's sort of like it's like being a parent. Like, I know you're capable of plenty of stuff on your own, but I'm still going to try to protect you and keep you from crazy stuff. That's my job as Clone Force Dan Zehr. Is that a thing?
Clone Force DAN.
There you go, Clone Force DAN. Only other thing I want to mention is that AZ3, the droid from Camino, is back at the beginning of this episode, starts to repeat what AZ does, and they say, yeah, we know, but he's like serving drinks in Sid's area or something like that. Anything else from this episode you want to talk about, or should we move on to the next one?
I think we should move on.
Okay, so the next one, Ruins of War, starts off right away with what happens. Of course, the boosters work, but before we get into sort of all that, what did you give this one?
I gave it like an A- in the middle of those, because I liked this one better than the last one, and I think the storyline was more interesting. Even though it's like a part 2, it was like better, sort of.
I agree. I like this one a little bit better too. I think it had a little more action. There's some more character stuff. I give it an A- as well. I love the fact that knowledge saves him on the descent, as we said for the other one, Spoils of War, because Omega has been doing her studies. Tech is obviously a fountain of knowledge and logic, and he's insightful, but Omega is more thoughtful. And the fact that she's thinking like more outside the box, critical thinking, and Tech sometimes does that, but he's not doing it here. It saves their life. Let's see. Tech ends up having a fracture. He breaks his leg, right? And you wrote down something about his reaction, didn't you?
Oh yeah, he actually, it's his
Femur?
femur, yeah.
Might be.
His left femur.
Oh, good. Wow, good memory.
And Omega said, "Are you okay?" And he said, "Judging that there was about 120 kilometers of," or what does he say?
I think you're right.
Kilometers?
Something.
Of weight on my...
Kilograms
of weight on my left femur, so no.
Yeah, he just says it very matter-of-factly. It's undoubtedly that will make Tom Gross chuckle because he loves Tech. I got to say, early on, even though it's only been a couple episodes, I already liked Tech more. I liked Tech fine, but he's just, there's something kind of endearing and charming about him. You feel the same way?
Yeah.
How come?
Like you said, how he's like more interacting with Omega.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. He's more like that. So then, Omega, we see a little bit of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade in this entire episode. It reminds me, so at the end of it, because we're just jumping around a little bit, there's a part where she's in the cargo box with Echo. She sneaks back because of the tow cable from Romar, who we'll talk about in a little bit. And she's reaching for the treasure. And I kept saying to you throughout both these episodes, why is Omega being so weird with the treasure? Why is she being so greedy? And what did you say?
I think doesn't understand it. She's too young, and she just knows that she wants to complete the mission, but she doesn't know like the whole how the Empire works and how Clone Force 99 does, other than her.
Yeah, and I thought that was pretty insightful because she's very concerned with with completing the mission. And I said to you, I think she's just being greedy. And you said, no, you said over and over, no, Dad, she's trying to complete the mission. And I think for her, that means being more like her brothers, like Clone Force 99.
Mm-hmm.
But then we find out it's not only that, but we find out it's actually much more important than that. She says, I heard you talking to Hunter. You don't have a normal life because of me. And Echo says something, I think if I had to pick one word for this episode, I would say the episode is about choice. Because he says, we made our choice. We'd be working for the Empire or worse. And by worse, I assume he means we'd be dead.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, if I didn't make that choice, I would do it all over again. Showing Omega, look, you don't have to get that treasure to give us anything. We gave this stuff up, but it really wasn't a sacrifice. We did it for you because we care about you and each other. We don't care about money. We want to stick it to the Empire, but you don't have to prove anything to us because we made that choice, and we would do it again because we care about you. I mean, they love her, I'd say.
Yes.
Very much like a brother-sister thing.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Romar. What are your impressions of Romar? This is the old man that is a Serenian. He's a native to this planet.
And like a survivor of his people, and the others fled.
Yeah.
I think at first he's a little mysterious, and then you get to know him, and he's kind of like the Bad Batch, but he doesn't have skills, like fighting skills like them.
Right, but he's very kind. Like he doesn't really necessarily invite them into his home, but Tech figures out that 20 kilometers away is a heat signature.
200.
200, yes. See, I need you to be better at numbers than me. That's one of the reasons you're helping co-piloting or having coffee with me today. Well, you're having hot chocolate though.
Mm-hmm.
Or do you prefer
Tea.
tea? Yeah, for sure. So he there's an important part where he takes them and he helps them. He hands Omega something, and she looks through it. It's like a kaleidoscope. Have you ever seen one of those in real life? Something like that?
Yes.
And she looks at it and she thinks it's jewels or something like that, or treasure. He says, no, it's just glass.
Reflected glass.
Reflected glass. And he makes an important point, and he's a little frustrated, but playfully frustrated. He's like, no, it's a toy. It's not treasure. Which makes me realize something. She's a kid, but she's never really gotten to be a kid before.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think about that?
I think, yeah, like you said, she's a kid, but she hasn't really done it, so I think she's trying to be a kid.
Yeah, it's kind of sad in a way. Imagine, like, when you're growing up and being little, instead of being able to play and have fun and do sports and go to school with your friends, you're just running for your life all the time from the Empire. So it's no wonder that she's not quite sure where to fit in, but I still think she fits in better than she realizes.
I agree.
Yeah. So when they're going about the treasure, Tech basically says to Romar, "Hey, we'll give you this. You know, like you can have some of it or whatever."
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "Oh, he has like this box that Tech helps him with, and it has like basically the remnants of his culture. It's got music, it's got stories.
It's an engine, like it's something two engine of something like that."
Yeah, and so Tech fixes it for him, so he's got all of his. It's almost like his internet, but it's got all of his culture and his history. And he says, "Oh, I've never seen a separatist device." And he goes, "No, not separatist, Serenian. We were from Serena before the separatist thing happened."
Before the war.
Before the war.
You know, is what he said.
Oh, very good. I mean, you have good memory. And Tech says, "I never thought about it that way before." Because, of course, he wouldn't, because he's so technical.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't think about the fact that there were people before. There were these government things that came in and created these divides between the Republic and the Separatists themselves. So I think that's cool.
Because the clones weren't before, they were made after. And kind of like straight in the middle.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't know what it was like or something.
And here's something crazy. Because this takes place right after Revenge of the Sith, even though the clones are adults because they age faster, they're only 3 years old.
That is crazy.
Isn't that wild? Yeah, but they're obviously, they're very much adults.
I wonder how old Omega is.
Yeah, because I thought they said that she aged normal, but she was made, however old Boba Fett is.
Yeah.
I don't know.
She looks like she's like my age, 9 or 10, maybe 12.
I would guess that.
But I don't know.
12, 13.
I definitely wouldn't say she's 3.
You can tell she's 8. No. You can tell she's older than them. She was probably created. Or they might have been created the same. Well, no, she had to be created earlier.
Yeah. Because they were created after all of them.
Right. That's a good point. But you can tell that she's aged from season 1. In fact, I'm not sure how much time has passed between 1 and 2. Probably not all that much time.
Probably not.
I'm sure it'll come out. So, before we get to Rampart at the end, is there anything you want to talk about with this second episode? Because you mentioned you liked it more, and I did too.
No, there isn't.
Okay, fair enough. Well, the only other thing we need to talk about is Rampart at the end. We learned there's a pretty important discrepancy here, and that is the fact that on their mission report, it says that Clone Force 99 perished on Kamino along with Topoka City.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says to this clone, I'm not sure who this clone is.
It's the general who led the attack on
Sereno?
Castle Sereno.
Yes. And he says, but your report says that Clone Force 99 was there. And he says, yes, we had 2 eyewitness spottings of them. And so Rampart says, but if Tarkin knows that they're still alive,
I'm at risk.
I will
be at risk.
Yeah, so of course the Empire working against itself, as all evil does in all these stories and in the real world. Mm-hmm. And so the clone says, I can't. You want to tell what happened?
Yeah, then the clone, right before, towards the end of their conversation, he says, don't worry, I won't tell him. And Rampart says, you're right, I will. And then he blasts him.
Yeah, he kills him.
Yeah.
And then you said to me, how is he going to hide that on his report? How is Rampart going to hide that he killed a clone to keep itself a secret?
Yes.
But he's so dishonest, he'll probably say he slipped, or I don't know what happened to him, or who knows. Or maybe he died on
the mission
on Sereno.
That's what I was thinking.
So we knew that Rampart was a creep sauce earlier in season 1, and now he shows that he's willing to kill clones. He doesn't seem to value clones very much. In fact, you see that in season 1. I really wish, I don't know how you feel about this, but I really wish I rewatched season 1 before I started watching season 2.
Yeah.
Just because there'd just be some cool things that we would miss.
Refresh your memory.
Yeah, refresh your memory. So it hasn't been that long, but it has been a lot because we've seen a lot of stuff. A lot of Marvel stuff, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Book of Boba Fett. A lot of things have happened since then. A lot of great stuff.
So, your mind is all, you think this happened, but it's from Bad Batch. You think Bad Batch happened when Mando happened, but Mando happened when you think Bad Batch happened. It messed up.
Yeah, it's great. What a great challenging thing to have. Well, we're gonna do this for all of season 2 of the Bad Batch. Mason and I, we may have some guests with us in the studio here on occasion, but I'm definitely gonna have my main co-pilot Mason Zehr with us. Mason, dude, thanks so much for being on the show.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to have you. How's it changed you to podcast now versus when you first started doing it?
I'm older, and I feel like I've done more since I started.
Plus, you've given some speeches at school.
Yeah.
And some presentations. So what was the last one you gave on?
You had to read A Christmas Story to the class.
Right. And then you did a biography too, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Who of?
I was Steven Spielberg.
Steven Spielberg. You talked all about Steven Spielberg. He did a great job. He's a natural. Well, Mason, thanks so much. And thank you, everybody, for joining us on a bonus episode of Coffee with Kenobi this week as we looked at episodes 201 and 202 of Season 2 of The Bad Batch, Spoils of War, and Ruins of War. Tune in tomorrow where we will resume our regular Coffee with Kenobi and talk all about the latest episode of Willow. On behalf of Mason Zehr, I'm Dan Zehr. We will see you next time. And remember, this is the podcast you're looking for.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
There's no one here. Move along.